Welcome back to my 100-day drawing challenge 2020. Today is day number 24 and the prompt is disco. So for this illustration I took a lot of inspiration from the 2018 drawing that I did for this challenge. Last year in 2019 I simplified the design quite significantly and I wasn't really that keen on it when I looked back on it. It was okay as an illustration, but I really like the 2018 version and wanted to try and step it up a little bit. So I tried my best. There are a couple of things with this illustration that I feel like I could have done better, but overall I do like it and I think it's a really fun prompt. I decided to change up the composition quite significantly because last year and the year before the character was kind of the main focus in the middle of the page, and then in last year's illustration I added that glitter ball that she's holding. I wanted to add a circle in the background just to frame the character, but also to add this block colour so that when I added the kind of light effects that were going to be flying around, I wanted a dark background so that those colours would really pop. And so that it would kind of give the illusion of a dark room, because that's kind of what I think of when I think disco, and especially if there's like glitter balls and a lot of lighting effects going on, you kind of want to be in a dark room for that to really show off to its full effect. I didn't want to colour the whole page a dark colour, and I also didn't want to use black. I think that this would look really good with a black background, but it's quite daunting to use such a dark colour traditionally because there's not a lot of room for error. You have to make sure you're very precise. I said last year, and I'll say it again this year, this would be so much easier to do digitally. I think this would be such a fun illustration to recreate digitally because I could add so many more lighting effects and cool stuff and really darken up the background and really brighten up everything else. But because I'm doing this traditionally, I just had to do the best with what I have to work with. So I didn't do a black background, but I did a kind of dark bluish grey background to give the illusion of a dark room, and I think it kind of works actually. I did colour the character pretty similar to the 2018 version. I really like that colour combination. I made the blue of her trousers a little bit more of a muted kind of greyish toned blue as opposed to a bright blue, because I think it worked better with the shade of orange that I was using as well. So her top is orange and her trousers are blue, because orange and blue are contrasting colours and you know how much I love to use contrasting colours. And I absolutely love her hair and her eyes with all the little sparkles in, which you probably won't see until the end because I add all of the neon lighting effects right at the end, so look forward to that. I will say one of the major things that I wish I'd done better with this illustration is just the pose of the character and the movement of the character. I thumbnail sketched this on a separate sketchbook, which I do for all of these illustrations because I like to try and plan out my composition beforehand. And I sketched out this little character and it kind of looks like she's dancing, and there's a lot more movement and expression in her pose in my original sketch. But with far too many of these illustrations, I try to recreate the pose that I originally sketched as accurately as possible, and it takes away a lot of that initial kind of movement and expression that the original sketch had because I'm trying to copy it so closely. This happened with the primary colours prompt as well. I remember I sketched out her pose and it looked so much better in the thumbnail sketch than it ended up looking in the final illustration. And I think the same thing happened with this illustration too. I think she just looks really stiff in the final illustration, so I wish I'd just not looked at my thumbnail sketch once I'd drawn it and just focused on the actual illustration and making it a little bit more free and expressive. And then I added all those little lighting effects at the end. I used some neon markers and a white pen. The one other thing that I will say about this illustration that I wish I would have improved on is I wish I planned out where all of these little light squares, so the glitter ball is like reflecting the light off in all directions and it kind of makes these little squares and dots against the surfaces that it's hitting, and I wish I'd just planned out where those were going to go a little bit better. I think it looks cool with all the neon colours, but I just think it looks a little bit messy, and I think it could have looked a lot better if I'd planned out where the light would actually be hitting, which would take a lot more work and a lot more thinking about the composition, but I wish I'd taken the time to do it because I think it would have added a much better effect to the final illustration. But overall, I like this drawing a lot. I think it's cute. That's all for today. If you're interested, there's a link to the full challenge playlist on screen and in the description. Subscribe if you'd like to keep up with me completing this challenge, and I'll see you tomorrow for another prompt. Take care.